And welcome back, gamers. It is I, Draxxinusam, and we are here playing Dwarf Fortress. This will be our fourth tutorial episode, so uh, welcome back, or welcome to the first one, depending on your level of Dwarf Fortress skills or what you're looking to brush up on. So last episode, we sort of went through about how to use commands. I might review those briefly just for those who might be having a problem or having trouble remembering or just need a refresher. So we also cut down some trees. We created sort of a ramp here, as you can see. It's connected here. It goes through here. Here are some downward staircases met by up-down staircases, met by another set of up-down staircases. Remember, again, that those commands are used by shift less than to go up and shift greater than to go down. So again, that's shift, comma, to go up, shift, period, to go down, and that will basically change what level you're on. I'm not going to go too much into those commands because if you want a more in-depth sort of information on that, you can definitely check out the last video and get a refresher on that. Just trying to make sure that everyone gets the information that they're needing. Okay, so in this one, I think we're going to focus on a little bit more of fortress creation rather than just commands and that sort of thing. So the first thing is, if you remember in our last video, we created these this farm plot here, and our dwarf is about to go get some seeds and see if he can't get that farm going for us. So let's see if we can't make his job a little bit easier. So as you can see also as a note, so here's the general menu and here is how many idlers. So that means this is how many dwarves in my fortress have no job at all. They're basically just sitting on their butt because they've got nothing to do. And so we have 7 total dwarves. Every fortress starts with 7 dwarves, and only 3 of them are doing something. So that's decent, not the best. We can definitely up that a little bit. So let's optimize our little farming area here. So you're probably wondering, Drax, why do you have this extra little thing here? And, well, let me show you. So let's go to our build menu. Again, that command is B. And let's go to something new. It will be workshops. So again, plus and minus on the number pad scroll through this particular menu. So we are going to look for workshops. And in this case, we are going to look for a farmer's workshop. Farmer's workshop basically deals with processing plants to turn them into seeds or to turn pigtails into fibers, that sort of thing. It's not necessarily needed that you need it right next to your farms, but that's where I put it just because it makes sense. So again, when you build something, it'll have this sort of designation. You move it around with the arrow keys, and it gives you these commands. Escape if you were like, oh, I didn't mean that workshop. It tells you which workshop you have here, and enter to place it. So basically, figure out where you want to place it. If it doesn't work, it'll show you these red X's, and if it's part of it works, it'll be purple, and if it all works, it'll be green. So we want this workshop. You can sort of pick how you want it. I have a little bit more plans for this room, but we'll just throw it here. So the next step is, if you remember, we had that lumberjack chopping down trees. So basically, everything needs building materials. So this farmer's workshop is no exception. So here, it'll show you all of the things that you have available. So, and to move through these, as you can see, the highlighted selection here, plus and minus again on the number pad. So here it tells you how far away it is from this particular location. I'm not really sure what basically like 31 moves to get to this Gabaro, or however you say that, 73 to get to these pine logs, that sort of thing. It's not usually something to worry about too much, and this shows you how much of those you have available. So I have 4 of those, 12 of those, 12 of those, 10 of those, and 1 of those. If you want to know a little bit more about it, you can hit V to view item, and it will tell you how much it weighs, and you can basically get a description on this particular item. It's not that interesting. So usually, if it's more than 1, it'll actually tell you how many you need. So here we just need 1, so we're just going to pick some of our wood because wood's kind of a renewable resource, so we will just go with pine. Okay, so we have selected that to build. As you can see, it looks kind of like nothing right now, but that's basically like because this is a little workstation. So if you want to know a little bit more, hit escape a couple of times, get us back out to the main menu, and of course we're still paused. And as you recall, the Q option is to look at buildings, and since this counts as a building, even though it's not built, it'll still come up, and it'll tell you what's going on. So this particular building is waiting for construction, and it needs anyone who has any skill in farming to come over. And basically it's saying just because we don't have anyone available, the construction is inactive right now. If you prefer your dwarves to work on something else first, something is more important, you can suspend it, which basically means don't ever work on this until I tell you. So we can hit S, and it'll tell you construction is suspended. So this will never be finished until we come back and unsuspend it, which is basically S again, and then it just goes to inactive, which basically means no one's around to work on it just yet. You can remove it if you either don't want that particular workshop, or you don't like where it's placed, or what have you. So we have it right where we want it. We have the right material, so we are going to go ahead and we are going to unpause it, and that guy will get going. So we do have a bunch of other dwarves who aren't doing anything, so we're actually going to make this little area, a little bit even better for our farmer dwarves. And that will be done with what is known as stockpiles, which is this guy right here. So stockpiles are basically wherever you dump sort of materials that your people will need, or your dwarves will need, or that you've made, and that sort of thing. So go ahead and hit P, and this will bring up the stockpile menu. So as you can see, you have all these sorts of stockpile types. There is no hard and fast rule for stockpiles. Like if I make a food stockpile, I can always change it. So it's sort of pick what you want to get closest to and then go from there. So we want all of our seeds to be in this area, so instead of going to all over the fortress to find wherever we have our seeds, we want the dwarves to be able to come right over here, pick up the seeds, and bring it back and plant them. So it's a really quick and easy process just between these two places rather than anywhere in the fortress. So if you read through these, you can hit pause and read through, or you can just believe me. The closest one you can get is food. So we're going to go ahead and go with food, and we're going to hit enter to say, yes, this is the kind of stockpile we want to make. Yeah. So when you actually select it and hit enter, it's sort of like the painter again. So sort of like if you were mining out or chopping trees or that sort of thing, it will start painting that. So if we hit enter, you see this little blinky guy right here in the middle. That means this is where the box will begin, and it wants to know where we want the box to go to. So we are going to surround the workshop here, so you can just paint a box over it. Dwarves can move on and over stockpiles, unlike workshops. They can't move through workshops like they weren't there, but they can do that in stockpiles, even if it has things in it. But we don't necessarily want all the food to come in here, because we don't necessarily want meat and things to go bad while it's sitting around a bunch of seeds and that sort of thing. That sounds like a disaster. So we're going to jump out again. So we're back in the main menu, and to manage stockpiles, you're going to have to hit Q. It sort of counts as a building. I'm not quite sure why, but that's the way of things. So here, there's a lot of sort of confusing sort of options. Some of them you'll learn on your own probably, but what we want is the settings. So here, it might seem pretty familiar. You've seen all of these guys in the previous stockpile menus. So this happens to be food, so you can see all sorts of food that happens to be dumped in this place. And we don't want all of this. We just want seeds. So here are your options on how to manage those sort of items. So we're actually going to block them all, because we don't want nearly that much stuff. Obviously, D disables that entire menu, so we're not even in food anymore. You can always re-enable it, and it'll jump right back in, but if you ever want to change it to like corpses or that sort of thing. So we're going to enable this guy, and then, so allow all means everything that exists will be plopped in here if it happens to be some food type. But we don't want that, so we are going to block all. And then, if you want to do items, specifically, it's these two here. So we are going to come over to seeds, which is obviously that guy, and we're going to hit P for permit, and you can see that lights up. So now, the only thing these dwarves know to put in here are seeds. So you can see we're at 4, so if we jump back out and we unpause it, that number jumps to 0. So that's because all of our dwarves are like, okay, we don't need anyone specific for this, we just need people who can carry stuff. So we're going to carry all of our types of seeds over to this stockpile, and we're just going to dump them in there. So here they come. Those little signs mean bags, so those are all bags of seeds. So we can hit K if you want to know that. If you don't believe me, hit K, and it'll say Dimple Cup Spawn Bag. So and that's made out of, if you want to see what that's made out of, hit Enter, and it'll tell you the contents. And then you can, let's see, you can hit V for the description. This is Dimple Cup Spawn Bag, so this is where we have all our Dimple Cup seeds, and it's made out of sheep's wool. And this, you can see this little guy here, he's planting, so it'll actually look a little bit different. And you can see what just happened if you were watching. This is our cat. See, stray cat. He dumped this little 2 here. So if we hit K, we can see what this little 2 is, and that's lizard. So this is exactly why we brought this guy, except he kind of feels like he's helping, so he'll leave like corpses of small animals in like food stockpiles and stuff. He's like, here's my contribution. Unfortunately, those go bad and they're disgusting. So what you actually have to do is we're actually gonna make a zone. So let's see. So zones are I. So hit I, and this basically says it's kind of like stockpiles, but it's a little different. So you just kind of have to know what zones are available. So we're going to just paint some stuff, and when you start painting, it tells you everything this can be. So it can be a water source. I don't recommend stagnant pools as a water source, by the way. It can be a garbage dump. It can be a pen and pasture, which is important. We'll go through that in just a moment. A pit, pond, sand, and clay. That's if you want to gather those for sort of production, like turning them into glass or clay or pottery type stuff. Meeting area, I don't recommend that being outside either. Hospital and animal training, those are kind of a little bit more advanced, and we'll go in those either. But for now, we just want a garbage dump. So this is basically just telling you what it is. You can't select any of these, and it tells you how many squares of that are counting right now. So we're just going to hit enter, and it'll be a little bit ugly, but it'll show you that there. And then it'll take you directly into the menu here, and it will give you the commands of what to make that. And we want a garbage dump, because we don't want corpses of lizards and things to be laying around. So we're actually going to go back, and we're going to hit K, and we're going to highlight those lizard remains. So here you can see which is highlighted, and to move through this menu is plus and minus. And we are going to come down here, and we are going to tell a dwarf to dump it, which is this. So so a little D appears, and that means as soon as someone is free, they're going to pick it up and throw it in the garbage. So you can see that number changed to 1 or down to 2, so that means someone's going to come over here. See, and he grabbed it, and we're walking it over to the garbage dump. See, here it is. We're just going to throw it down. And in this case, it happened to go into that puddle, which is kind of disgusting. But whatever. Those are stagnant pools anyway, so you don't want none of that. Okay, so we've got our farm going. We've got seeds here for our farmer to use, so that's all good. So we are going to want to start working on places for our dwarves to work and sleep. So let's go ahead and start on that. Let me think how I want to start. So, we are going to jump down. Okay, we are going to do it all here. Alright, so it's time to mine out again, and if you remember, that's in the designations menu. So we're just sort of going to open it up, and in my own sort of style, you can definitely create your fortress however you want. This just happens to be my preferred method. We're going to create some hallways branching out from this main sort of stair spiral here. And actually, this is a note I just remembered. Like I said, the more surface area, the less likely the dwarves are going to work in the area you want them to. So what I do when I remember that I've just done a bit too much is I go back into the designations and I hit X, and I basically cut off what I don't want them to work on. So if a dwarf can't get to this area, he's not going to work on it. And since we're only on this level, the only thing they're going to have to be able to work on is this hallway through here. So we're going to wait for those guys to show up. Come on, guys. Oh, it's paused. Huh. That definitely happens to me more than a few times. So that's flashing, so that means the miners are on their way, and we're down to 1 idler. So that's pretty good. And you can see these double lines mean there's something planted there, so we're also working on those. Very good, very good. I'm actually going to cut them off right about here. I'm just going to leave that because I'm probably going to reconnect it one day, but just not right now. And then I'm going to actually move down this hallway. So I'm going to redesignate the area that I cut off before, and now it's connected, so when they happen to get to one they like, they'll go back and work on that. And that dwarf was thirsty, so he went to get a drink. You can tell because there's arrows down and with a color based on what that actually is. And if it's a blue arrow, that means they're thirsty. And you can always check, if you're always curious as to what's going on with dwarves, you can hit U, and this will bring up a menu of all of the dwarves, actually all of everything in your own little zone here. So the first tab is citizens, which will have all of their names, their jobs, and what they're doing. So we have a dwarf that's fishing, a dwarf that's planting seeds, and 2 dwarves that are digging, and then a bunch of layabouts. So in this menu, the arrows will be the navigation. So here we have some pets and livestock. Others, we have a king cobra somewhere and a barn owl somewhere, and nobody's dead, so. And that, again, is the U menu. So you may remember that while everything is going on, in the zones, there was a pen and pasture. So even if, see this horse here and this yak, even though they're absolutely surrounded by grass, they will starve to death if you don't give them a pasture. So we're going to have to create one of those for them. So remember, that was in zones, so we're going to hit I for zone. And we're going to paint them a sort of area to hang out in. And it sort of wraps around trees and things. So that's always something to think about, but not necessarily necessary. So we are going to paint them an area, say about yay big, so we can bring animals in here in the future. And we are going to put this to pen and pasture, which is N. So then we're going to go over to this pen and pasture. Whoops, so hit I. And as you can see, it's set to pen and pasture. Because when you actually place it, it goes into that menu. However, you're not quite done yet. So when you're in the I menu, see, because it doesn't come up in Q, so in I, which is actually interesting. I think I told you wrong. So that's unfortunate. Don't do the thing I said before. So in I, you can highlight these, and it'll actually give you some information. Oh, no, those were stockpiles. That's where I said you could use Q. Okay, so here, it'll basically give you some information about what you can have those zones do. And in here, you basically have to add what creatures you want to be in that pen and pasture. And since horses and yaks, rather, are the ones that are going to need to be in a pen and pasture, you basically scroll through this menu with plus and minus, and then you select which you want to be added with enter. And then when it's added, it'll add a plus, and this little hash mark means they're assigned there. So a lazy dwarf, so if we unpause it, these dwarves are just going to move these creatures over. You don't necessarily need any sort of fences and that sort of thing. Creatures don't ever run away, but if you want to protect them from marauding creatures or really mean beasties that happen to be around, you can definitely create a fence if you want. And you can make that out of just about anything. So as you can see, our farm is clipping her along here, and we're working on this tunnel. So the first thing I'm going to build is I'm actually going to build some workshops, because obviously we can't have a fortress without beds, tables, and chairs, and that sort of thing. So we're going to wait for them to cut this out a little bit, and we are going to build what I tend to refer as the lumber room. So doors can be made as big as you want, and just as a reminder, if you're making a room, remember that you need one you need one square as a wall. So if I went like this and just highlighted all of that, that means that this would basically be a gigantic open room without any sort of entrance way. So just remember that, keep that in mind. If you happen to like big empty rooms, or big rooms with no, like, definable edges, then that's certainly fine. But I don't like that. So I always cut 2 or 3, depending on, maybe 1, depending on, so anywhere between 1 and 3, depending on what the room is actually for, as the doorway, and then whatever I happen to think for the rest of the structure. So this is going to be our first sort of workshop room, and this is going to be our second. And I'm going to basically mirror that because I'm all about dimensions. So let's see, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 10 up by 13 over. So I'm going to start painting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And we're going to let the boys chop that out. Keep it up, gents. See, and everyone's still milling out here out at the wagon. So that's kind of a problem, because we definitely don't want people milling out there when bad stuff happens or that sort of thing. So we struck some gems, which is citrine, which are these little guys here, these little clusters. Those clusters usually mean jewels, but not always. For example, oh, Morians is actually a type of jewel, so, or a gem, so, oops. We're going to let him keep digging this out. Obviously, because this is a type of stone, it's going to take longer to hack away than, say, peat, which is kind of like a clay sort of thing, or sand, which basically, like, I mean, imagine digging into them with your hands, obviously. Sand is going to be easy, peat might be a little bit harder, and rock is going to be incredibly difficult to do with your hands. In fact, perhaps even impossible, unless you happen to really want it. Alright, so they're almost done with our lumber room, and when they are, sometimes, like this, it can be tragic because they'll get really close to being done, and then they'll decide to work on the door over there. So you'll be so close, and then they'll be like, see, just happened. They didn't want to finish that, so we sort of have this almost finished room. But we have enough that we can go. So, as you recall, I called this the lumber room. So in my particular case, like, I used to have one room for every sort of thing, but that's kind of inefficient, and, I mean, unless you're really good at designing, it can kind of be cluttery and that sort of thing, but if you want to have, like, a really intricate sort of fortress, that's definitely an option. Some people go for, like, the min-maxing, where it takes the least amount of time to do stuff. If you're sort of too good at the game, that can eventually cause, like, your workshops and stuff to clog just because they're so fast at producing. But we're going to do it this way. You can definitely do it any sort of way that you see fit. Feel free to experiment. That's how we play Dwarf Fortress, to sort of fall in love with it. So, lumber room. So what I mean by lumber room is anything that creates something using wood is going to be in this room. So go ahead and hit B with me. And you recall I said workshops are going to be the bread and butter. Well, in this case, not so much. If you're going to eat wood, that's not the kind of wood you want to eat. Wink. So let's go ahead and go to the workshop. So this is everything that your dwarves can build and do. So we already built a farmer's workshop, which is right there. It's telling us we've got one of those. In this case, we're going to excuse me. In this case, we're going to look for everything that's makes things out of wood. So let's find carpenters, because that's an easy one. And I sort of try and future-proof myself a little bit, so I try and build more than one. So here is the list of materials we can build this out of, and as you can see, there's no number, so we only need one of anything. So we're going to go with the gabbro, because we have a lot of it, and that's the type of stone. So I future-proof myself by building at least a couple of the really popular ones. So we're going to build one. So we have one carpenter's workshop. I'm going to select another one. One thing to note is unlike some things where doors can move through, they cannot move through workshops. So if you build a workshop right next to another workshop, make sure that you have at least one square open and pathable to the other side. So if I built a workshop here and a workshop here, so it's basically completely surrounding this workshop except for this corner here, that workshop will become useless because dwarves cannot get into there. So always make sure that you've got at least one square somewhere that a dwarf can get access to. So I'm going to jump one space just so we've got that, and I'm going to build another workshop. And you see this number drop by 1, so we're going to go ahead and select another one just because we got a lot of it, so we don't care that we use it so much. So 2 is probably pretty good. So let's go and find something else that uses wood. Wood. Let's see here. So, Craft Dwarf's workshop definitely does, but we're going to look for something else first. So we are going to do a Bowyer's workshop. It actually uses wood and bone, but in this case, oh crap, this was bad planning, and I'll show you why in a second. Freak. Oh well, we don't actually need that efficient a space because this is a lot of room. So we are going to go ahead and build a Bowyer's. They actually use wood and bone. So this counts as wood, so we're going to throw it in this room as well. And again, Gabbro, just because it doesn't have a ton of use and we've got a lot of it. So the only other thing that uses wood is actually the Craftsdorf's workshop. And that actually is sort of a special case, because Craftsdorf's actually uses pretty much every material. They use bone, they use stone, they use wood, and all sorts of things. So you can kind of throw them in there. They'll actually path to wherever the material is that they happen to want to use, but I always try and include it. So we'll throw one in here as well. Maybe 2. We'll do 1. We'll do 2 in the stone room. And we'll do Gabbro again. Okay, so we have all of the workshops set up for our lumber room. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to I'm going to do something sneaky. So if you remember, I said dwarves can pass through stockpiles. So we are actually going to make a stockpile, and we're going to do wood. And then we're going to basically cover the rest of this room with a wood stockpile. So basically, dwarves will bring all of the wood into this room and surround these workshops with it, and then the dwarves who use wood in these workshops will basically not have to go anywhere at all to be able to pull that material and build things. I can't do it quite yet, though, because of these 4 squares here. It'll sort of mess up the symmetry, because you'll have to add it in, and it'll count as a separate workshop, and that's really ugly, so I'm going to wait. This is actually going to be our stone room. So everything that is crafted, it's basically just a sort of duplicate of the lumber room, but every workshop in here will have a use of stone. So that will also be a thing. As you can see, our sort of farm is going well, and we actually have a plump helmet right there. That is one of our mushrooms that someone can eat and live off of. So that's pretty cool. So as you saw, that dwarf came through and he built these 2 carpenter workshops. So now we have to think of something else, because the jobs won't always process on these. So if you want to do, you can definitely hit Q, which is the building viewer, and as you can see, it says profile requires manager. That's sort of something I'm about to tell you about, but you can always add directly what you want a workshop to do with the Q viewer. So you can go to Q and you can say add, and basically anything that's wooden will appear in this menu. Anything that carpenter's workshop that can build. But there's sort of a better and more mass-produced sort of way to create orders. So follow along with me here. We are going to hit J, which is the job list, which basically has every sort of job that we have queued up at all. Like move, so you can see we have a bunch of sleeps queued, construct building, that sort of thing. So we're close, but we want to go 1 level deeper because we actually want to create jobs rather than just look at them. So we come down here, there's some options here, and you can definitely sort of guess what those do. So we're going to go to the manager, so we've hit J, now we're going to hit M, and it's sort of Whoops, sort of muted myself there. That's a problem. I'm gonna have to edit that probably a little bit. But anyways, so we are back here in case you didn't hear me, hit M, and this will take you into this menu, and it'll say a manager is required to coordinate work orders. So that's very true, but we're just going to get these work orders queued in the first place. So basically in this menu, so that was Q to get into a new order, P to increase its priority if you want them to work on it faster, T is maximum priority, and R is remove it. So you can hit Q, and it'll bring you into this, and you can basically type in anything. So I can type in bed, I can type in wooden, and it'll basically bring up anything wooden that is in its name. You can bring up iron. You can bring up cook. Oh, nope, not cook. Meal. Prepare easy meals. You can type in brew. Basically any sort of job that a dwarf can do, except for like cut trees. They can cut gems, but not trees. That's done in the designation menu. So we're going to want beds. We're going to want, say, 10 beds. We're going to want chairs, and there's only wooden chairs. Other things will be called thrones, and there's definitely type of like rock thrones. So if you happen to not want to use wood for that, that's definitely something you can do. So let's get chairs here, and we'll get 10 of those. We also want tables, because what good is a chair without a table? So as you can see, there's several different types of tables. There's wooden and rock tables. Rock is going to be a lot more abundant, but it's not renewable, where wood is less abundant, but renewable. But wood takes time, so we're going to go with rock. And we're going to order up 10 of those. Okay, so I've basically ordered quite a bit of stuff with just a few keystrokes. But to get these done, we're going to need a manager. So we're going to jump back out, and we are going to hit Shift, I believe it's Shift N. No, not Shift N. We're just going to hit N. So if we find just normal N, here it is. Nobles and Administrators. So let's hit that. And you can see that this is all of our sort of leaders of the fortress here. And I mean, it's not, particularly interesting and that sort of thing. So, what was I saying? Okay, so we need a manager. And so as you recall, we have the expedition leader who has all sorts of jobs and abilities, basically meant for running this in the very early game. So as you can see all of the names of the dwarves, and you can scroll through this list with up and down, or the 8293 on the number pad. And as you scroll through them, it'll say no relevant skills. And this is true of any job, or any of the noblemen's. So you can scroll through here, and on this guy that we created as our expedition leader, he has Novice Organizer, and that's exactly why we gave him that skill. So we're going to hit Enter, and it will assign him that job. And you can see there's a little bit of red there, but that's something we'll deal with in a second. And as you can see, there's also a Chief Medical Dwarf, and as you recall, we brought one of those as well. So hit Enter, and as you can see, the Doctor, and it'll tell you what skill is required for this, and it's Diagnostician. So we're going to give him the job as our Chief Medical Dwarf. Broker, again, that falls into our expedition leader, so he's got Adequate Appraiser and Novice Negotiator. So we're going to go ahead and throw him in there. And we also have Bookkeeper, which is sort of another thing, and we're going to throw him in there as well. So as you can see, he has this requirement. So what we need is sort of an office. And to make an office, we need tables and we need chairs. So we are going to go ahead and that's why we queued those up, so we can get him an office as soon as possible, so we can keep work moving. For now, he will actually do his job, so as you can see, this is removed, so these will still be processed, but as the actual job the fortress grows, he will not do his job unless he has an office. So you can see all of these are now queued up, and they're all inactive because we're building like things one at a time, because we only have one dwarf who can do it. So as you can see, our miners fell asleep because they've been hard at work for a long time. And now this guy woke up, so he's back at the job. And you can see this is our guy, our carpenter here, who's also in charge of chopping trees. He's going to walk up here. And this is sort of why we moved the stockpiles really close. Because you see, he walked all the way up here to get a log. And now he's walking all the way back down. And then he's already there. And now if you hit Q, it shows you what he's building. He's on a bed, and that means what he's on right now. So that's what he's making, and you can see what's done in here with A again. Okay, so as you can see, they finished chopping this out. What is that blinking thing there? Gabbro. Huh, weird. That seems like a glitch. Anyways, so let's turn this into our lumber room. So let's go ahead and create a stockpile, and since all we want is wood, all we need is wood, we're going to go ahead and paint this entire room. Boom. So now every single one of our idling dwarves know, hey, I can pick up stuff. So they're all going to go out and find all these logs that we chopped down, and they're going to grab them and haul them all the way down here. And we're just going to plop them wherever. And they will always fill this up so long as there are logs upstairs or anywhere to pick up, including like in a depot, which is something we'll be creating soon. And since this episode is coming to an end here in a little bit, we'll probably show that in another episode. So as you can see, our stone room is complete, so we'll go ahead and we'll start that the same way we started our wood room. So we'll go to B in the build menu, and we'll hit W for workshops, and we're going to find everything that uses stone. So the first thing that we will notice is masons, so that's basically the counterpart to the carpenter. So we'll go ahead and throw a few of those down. The same sort of menu where this is a type of stone, and we have 92 of those units, so we'll go ahead and pick that one. We're going to go ahead and build the same thing again, so mason. And we will throw it down in the same sort of fashion as these guys up here. So what else do we need that is stone? So Mechanics Workshop is actually one that uses a lot of stone as well. So we're going to come down here, which is T. That's not necessarily going to be something we work on right away, but it's something we're going to need down the line. And since it's a little bit hard to modify and put things over on these stockpiles, we're just going to build it now. And unfortunately, we don't have a mechanic, so that's going to stay unbuilt for a little while. So the next thing we're going to need is a Craftsdwarf's workshop. So let's see if we can't find that. Craftsdwarf. Ah, here we are. So we're actually going to build two of these. A lot of the things that I produce are actually made out of stone, just because it's cheap and it's a quick way to get things to sell to the other civilizations. So we're going to build two of those in the stone area. And then we're going to go ahead and hit space and let them work for a bit. And as you can see, the gentleman has been working on the beds, just like we told him to. So now if we actually wanted to build a bed, we could hit B for build, and B again for bed. And you can see, if you checked before, it would say no beds available. But now that we have them, we can actually place them, and I could hit enter, and there would be a bed shipped there. But we're actually going to make rooms because we're kind of nice to our dwarves. So we'll try and make that nice. Here's another dead animal that we're going to have to dump. Here's another one. So get out of here, dead animals. And you can see flies and things generate. So this is a cloud of flies, or a swarm of flies, so we kind of want those to go away. Alright, so the next thing we're going to work on is we are going to work on a dining hall. And we're going to work on the office for our stupid dwarf. So this is going to be his office here. You can sort of make it however you want. Since offices don't need to be gigantic, I tend to not go gigantic. But I'm also going to work on a dining hall / meeting hall. So let's go ahead and plan that out. I usually do 3 because it's a little bit bigger. And then I plan out a pretty large room. So let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 off of the 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I sort of pull it out, maybe not too gigantic, but pretty gigantic, because obviously like a meeting hall / eat room is going to need to be large. And then I create 2 sort of offshoots from the sides here. So this side on this side, and then again over on this side, sort of as, because I'm big on symmetry, and you can see I added something a little extra there, so let's go ahead and remove that. So then let's go ahead and get symmetry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is actually a bad number because workshops are 3, so we'll only be able to fit 1 workshop in here. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of modification. So it's going to break symmetry, but it'll work out. So we're going to make this bigger. Actually, Actually, I'm going to leave it like that. I believe that'll work. Yeah, that'll work. And then, what I'm going to do is, because this food is going to be shipped directly to this place here, I'm actually going to build a sort of staircase that goes directly from the farm area down to the food area. So we're going to go ahead and build a we're going to build a slight hall, and we're going to build that right here. Actually, let's move this a little bit if I can. Let's see where. Okay, so this is the wall that we'll need separating. So we'll build a 3 wide hall here, and then we will have it connect to a downward stairway, and we will go down a level and have it connect to an upward stairway. And we'll just look and make sure that those are different, and they are. And then, so we will go, whoops, went in the wrong direction. So then we will go ahead and we will connect this here as a sort of symmetry, and that way I'll show you why we did that here in the next episode. But for now, that is the end, and we will continue this next time, and we will see that we can get you even a little bit better and farther along in Dwarf Fortress. So click like and subscribe if you happen to enjoy, or if this happened to be helpful to you. I'll unpause it so my dwarves can keep working. Leave a comment. I definitely want to hear about your own fortresses, or see if you can't send me a picture or a screenshot or a story about them, maybe. And that would be wonderful. And for now, I will say thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good one, viewers.